Hello again everyone! Here we are again to discuss the poetry in Doki Doki Literature Club. For those of you who missed it, I did a part 1 to this video where I discussed all the meanings, techniques, and characterization behind Monika and Sayori's poems. And today we are going to be discussing Natsuki's and Yuri's. And thank you guys so much for all the love on the first video of this. All the comments were super positive and nice and contributing to the discussion. And I'm a very small YouTube channel. That video has helped me get to 2,000 subscribers, so thank you. It's my most viewed video now. As of filming, it's currently sitting at 21,000 views. That's crazy. And it's helped bring my channel a lot closer to monetization, which is especially awesome. My like New Year's goal for this year was to like reach 2,000 subscribers, and I've hit it already, so thank you! So let's keep all that positivity going with this video. I am so excited to talk about the style, techniques, and further characterization behind Natsuki and Yuri's poems. These two characters have such distinctly different styles of their poetry, so it's going to be really interesting to look at back to back. Natsuki and Yuri disagree on each other's style of poetry, both kind of taking this stance that their style is superior to the other, but today we're going to be honoring both styles. Yuri and Natsuki's poems also differ from Monika and Sayori's, as both of them have alternate poems that you can get by following their kind of romance route by writing poems all for that character. When you write poems exclusively for either Natsuki or Yuri, you get a special, more distinct and personal poem from them. Also, just to note, the special poems that you can unlock throughout the second act of the game won't be included in this video, mainly as most of them aren't poems, but in case anyone's wondering why things I like about Papa isn't on here, I didn't count any like hidden poetry. Also, yes, I'm not in cosplay this time. I've cosplayed Yuri too many times recently and I didn't feel like doing it again. And my Monika wig is in disarray at the moment, and I need to restyle it, and I have not had a chance to restyle it. So, lack of cosplay today. Once again, DDLC is a very dark game and contains a lot of very heavy trigger warnings. So some big trigger warnings for self-harm, mental health, and family abuse. I found some of these topics actually quite difficult to go into. There were some things when writing this video I decided for my own sake not to go into too much depths when talking about, just because they are quite disturbing and upsetting. So please take care of yourselves and be advised of these topics. Let's kick things off with Natsuki's poems. This is the first poem we get from Natsuki on the first day we all share poems. Monkeys can climb, crickets can leap, horses can race, owls can seek, cheetahs can run, eagles can fly, people can try, but that's about it. There's not a ton to say about this poem, but that is not because it's bad or because it's simple, but because Natsuki herself explains it quite well. As Natsuki says, "I like when it's easy to read but hits you hard, like in this poem. Seeing everyone around you do great things can be really disheartening, so I decided to write about it. But the other nice thing about simple writing is it puts more weight on the wordplay. Like I set up for a rhyme at the end, but then made it fall flat on purpose. It helps bring out the feeling in the last line." I love poems that play with the rhyming scheme of the words, and this one is really effective at it. As Natsuki points out, having the beginning of the poem follow a very simple structure with simple rhymes sets up for it to end that way too, but instead falls flat by introducing a last line you wouldn't expect. This further pushes the meaning of this poem of not feeling good enough. In Natsuki's case, the time where she doesn't feel good enough is around Yuri. Natsuki feels that compared with Yuri, with her elegance and maturity, especially in her writing, Natsuki comes across as quite cute and immature. While Natsuki's interests are in manga and baking, and her poems take a very simple approach, she isn't necessarily a cutesy character. Much of her character comes from a desire to break free of this label she's fallen under. As she points out when arguing with Yuri, the poem is about not feeling great in comparison to others, so what's cute about it? While the poem itself is looked down on, it's in no way a bad poem. The next poem of Natsuki's is even more interesting, that being Amy Likes Spiders. You know what I heard about Amy? Amy likes spiders. Icky, wriggly, hairy, ugly spiders. That's why I'm not friends with her. Amy has a cute singing voice. I heard her singing my favorite love song. Every time she sang the chorus, my heart would pound to the rhythm of the words. But she likes spiders. That's why I'm not friends with her. One time I hurt my leg real bad. Amy helped me up and took me to the nurse. I tried not to let her touch me. She likes spiders, so her hands are probably gross. That's why I'm not friends with her. Amy has a lot of friends. I always see her talking to people. She's probably talking about spiders. What if her friends start to like spiders too? That's why I'm not friends with her. It doesn't matter if she has other hobbies. It doesn't matter if she keeps it private. It doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt anyone. It's gross. She's gross. The world is better off without spider lovers. And I'm gonna tell everyone. So I interpret this poem in two different ways, but it ultimately carries the same meaning. Leaving out Natsuki's personal relation to this poem, the poem is ultimately about shaming someone for their interests. Like her first poem, it has a very simple structure, is easy to follow, and uses very simple words, but uses them effectively. The first verse introduces the idea that Amy likes spiders, and that's gross, and that's why I'm not friends with her. The following verses show all the way that Amy's a good person, and that they have similar interests, and Amy has a lot of friends. But I can't be friends with her because Amy likes spiders. The repetition at the end of every verse almost makes it feel like a children's picture book or fairy tale with the pattern of 3, each scenario showing the same conflict and end result. Think like Little Red Riding Hood. Grandma, what big eyes you have, all the better to see you with. What big ears you have, all the better to hear you with. What big teeth you have, all the better to eat you with. The effect of this is that it reads like a very simple, light-hearted poem, but carries a much heavier meaning to it. Our final repetition is the final verse. It doesn't matter if she has other hobbies. It doesn't matter if she keeps it private. It doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt anyone. It's very conversational in the way that it's written, like the writer's trying to convince themselves of these facts. It ends with, the world is better off without spider lovers, and I'm going to tell everyone. This idea of telling everyone is proven, because the whole poem is telling everyone. Through the repetition, through the conversational language, Amy likes spiders, and that's gross. Now, how does this reflect what Natsuki is personally feeling? Let's start with my first interpretation. This is how Natsuki feels everyone thinks about her. Natsuki loves manga, but feels that she can't share it with her friends. They don't get it, they think it's dumb and immature. And so Natsuki is left feeling like she can't share her interests. She doesn't have real friends because she likes spiders, likes manga. My second interpretation is that this is how Natsuki feels about Yuri. Natsuki and Yuri have a great potential to be friends, but their one conflicting interest get in the way of it. Yuri likes things that Natsuki doesn't, so they can't be friends. The spiders that Yuri likes could be one of two things. It could be Yuri's general interest in horror and fantasy, her complex psychological books that are too complex for someone like Natsuki to understand. It could also be that Natsuki knows that Yuri suffers with self-harm and is uncomfortable and judgmental towards her for it. It is hinted in the second act of the game that Natsuki does know about it, but it's hard to tell if that is true for the first act, aka before Monika starts rewriting the script. Some of the wording, like, doesn't matter that she keeps it private, her hands are probably gross, makes me think that this is a possibility. I love the way that such a simple poem could have so many different in-game interpretation. And it's very telling of the fact Natsuki could be writing about how she thinks others see her, or how she sees Yuri. It shows that it's hypocritical of Natsuki to judge Yuri and stop herself from getting too close to her, when Natsuki feels left out when others do the same to her. The poem Natsuki shows on the 4th day varies, depending on if you wrote all poems for her. The following poem is one that you do get for writing all poems for Natsuki, titled Because You. Tomorrow will be brighter with me around, but when today is dim, I could only look down. My looking is a little more forward, because you look at me. When I want to say something, I say it with a shout, but my truest feelings can never come out. My words are a little less empty, because you listen to me. When something is above me, I reach for the stars, but when I feel small, I don't get very far. My standing is a little bit taller, because you sit with me. I believe in myself with all my heart, but what do I do when it's all torn apart? My faith is a little bit stronger, because you trusted me. My pen always puts my feelings to the test. I'm not a good writer, but my best is my best. My poems are a little bit dearer, because you think of me. Because you. This poem is pretty self-explanatory, more so even than her other poems. The poem is Natsuki feeling that she can show her true feelings more now that you're in her life. While yes, it is a romance path you can go down with Natsuki, I like that this poem is more so about companionship with you, more so than a romantic desire for you. The thing that Natsuki is so grateful for is that you're spending time with her, engaging in her interests, sitting with her. This isn't something Natsuki receives and makes her feel that she can't share her interests. The first verse establishes that Natsuki has more hope for the future now. While surprisingly she never discusses it in her poetry, which I'll talk about in a bit, home isn't safe for her and she faces abuse from her father. By having someone she feels safe with, she can allow herself to feel hope for the future. The second verse goes into Natsuki's personality. While she comes across as very loud and an assertive character, she feels she can never express her true feelings. But because you listen to her, she feels more capable of expressing herself. The next verse is her appreciation for the fact that you spend time with her, when you sit on the floor and read manga with her, and it makes her feel a little bit more confident. Next is because you trusted me. Her faith has been rattled, presumably because of the abuse of her father. But because you encourage Natsuki and lifts her up, her faith is a little stronger. Lastly, she feels her poetry has improved because of you. This verse gives the indication that Natsuki is actually insecure about her poetry style, despite how confident she appears when discussing it. This poem comes across as so much more sweet than her other poems. There is no darkness at the end or sad hidden messages. It's genuinely a wholesome love letter. My poems are a little bit dearer because you think of me. Now let's compare it with the other poem you can see on this day, I'll Be Your Beach. Your mind is so full of troubles and fears that diminished your wonder over the years. But today I have a special place, a beach for us to go. A shore reaching beyond your sight, a sea that sparkles with brilliant light. The walls in your mind will melt away before the sunny glow. I'll be your beach that washes your worries away. I'll be your beach that you daydream about each day. I'll be the beach that makes your heart leap in a way you thought had left you long ago. Let's bury your heavy thoughts in a pile of sand. Bathe in sunbeams and hold my hand. Wash your insecurities in the salty sea and let me see you shine. Leave your memories in a footprint trail. Set you free in my windy sail. And remember the reasons you're wonderful when you press your lips to mine. I'll be the beach that washes your worries away. I'll be the beach that you daydream about each day. I'll be the beach that makes your heart leap in a way that you thought had left you long ago. But if you let me be by your side, your own beach, your own escape, you'll learn to love yourself again. Now, it's interesting the way that this poem compares to Because You. Because You is this open-hearted, beautiful confession where I'll be your beach is a hypothetical. If you were to love her, she would be your beach. Whether Because You is because you love her. I'll Be Your Beach is a lyrical, sweeter poem with an upbeat outlook. When Game Grumps played DDLC in their playthrough, when they read Natsuki's poem, they broke into song. When you press your lips to mine, I'll be the beach that washes your worries away. I'll be the beach that you daydream about every day. And honestly, this poem does low-key sound like the lyrics to a cheesy 2000s pop song. It follows the structure of a song with rhyming verses and then a chorus of I'll Be Your Beach. The rhyming structure is also effective in this poem and is very structured, as I've highlighted here. Once again, in typical Natsuki style, the final verse stands out from the rest. The final verse is the only one to break the structure of the poem, and this makes it stand out. It feels more like it's addressing you directly, rather than a general you. Once again, this poem could either be Natsuki writing to you, or it could be what Natsuki wants to receive. While this poem is this hypothetical, I could be your beach and help you grow and learn to love yourself again, it's unclear which way she intended it when writing it. The idea that being your beach isn't just loving you, it's helping you grow, bearing your fears, telling you you're wonderful, sounds like something that Natsuki wants from you. And that's the last of Natsuki's Act 1 poems. Act 2, there's a decrease in the amount of poems that you get from Natsuki. The first poem she shows is Eagles Can Fly, repeated once again. And then some pretty interesting poems being shown. The next poem written by Natsuki is this one, which is written in base 64. My brain when looking at this goes, oh, it's computer glitch garble to show the game is breaking. But you can actually translate this. For anyone like me who doesn't know how to use a computer other than typing, Base64 is a group of binary to text encoding schemes that transforms binary data into a sequence of printable characters, limited to a set of 64 unique characters. Basically, it's its own computer language. This is the translation of Natsuki's poem. I won't read it aloud, I'll let you read it. It's pretty evident that this is supposed to be from Yuri due to the nature of what it's describing, and also the title being The Third Eye, which is a part of the plot to the Portrait of Markov and is mentioned in the hidden files of the game that describe human experimentation, all of which links back to Yuri. The purpose of this poem is to show you how badly the game is breaking, and also another way for Monika to further expose Yuri and turn you away from her. Some of the most disturbing parts of this game come from the little hidden messages in the game's code and poems like this. This writing's up here with some of the most disturbing stuff in-game. Natsuki's last poem, once again, is not your typical poem. It's a letter, and it's Natsuki's rawest emotions. I don't know how else to bring this up, but there's something I've been worried about. Yuri has been acting kind of strange lately. You've only been here a few days, so you may not know what I mean, but she's not normally like this. She has always been quiet and polite and attentive, things like that. Okay, this is really embarrassing, but I'm forcing myself to suck it up. The truth is, I'm really worried about her. But if I try talking to her, she'll just get mad at me again. I don't know what to do. I think you're the only person that she'll listen to. I don't know why, but please try to do something. Maybe you can convince her to talk to a therapist. I've always wanted to try being better friends with Yuri, and it really hurts me to see this happening. I know I'm going to hate myself later for admitting that, but right now I don't care. I just feel so helpless. So please see if you can do something to help. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I'll make you cupcakes if I have to. Please try to do something. As for Monika, I don't know why, but she's been really dismissive about this. It's like she just wants us to ignore it. So I'm mad at her right now, and that's why I'm coming to you about this. Don't let her know I wrote this. Just pretend like I gave you a really good poem, okay? I'm counting on you. Thanks for reading. This poem is honestly one of the things that makes me feel the most sympathy for Natsuki. Natsuki is stuck in the middle of this whole thing. While Monika messes with the script for Natsuki, Monika doesn't actively change Natsuki's core personality. She's her same self, watching one of her friends spiral into madness while the other pretends like nothing is happening. Natsuki struggles to share her emotions and be vulnerable, so in writing this to you, confessing that she does care about Yuri, that she feels helpless, that she needs your help to fix this, that she doesn't trust Monika anymore. This is her heart on a plate. Much like Natsuki's poems, the words to this letter are very simple but so effective. Sentences like, maybe you can convince her to talk to a therapist, make the whole thing feel so real. One thing I find interesting about Natsuki's poems is that these are the most intimate things she shares with us voluntarily, and not one poem even hints to the fact that she's being abused at home. The only way we find out about her abusive father is through Monika, in moments where she rewrites the scripts, in special poems, and when Monika herself tells us that Natsuki's dad doesn't leave much food in the house. It really goes to show just how repressed she keeps these feelings. Like many of you said in the comments to part 1, Natsuki's poems are not to be overlooked. Simplistic, yet effective. Cute, but hard-hitting. These poems are a perfect representation of her character. And on to our final girl, Yuri. Yuri's poems are in many ways the opposite to Natsuki's. Both in style and technique, they are oozing with metaphor and symbolism and figurative language. It doesn't make them superior to Natsuki's in any way. In fact, the game itself goes out of its way to show you how ultimately similar their poems are. Yuri's first poem is Ghost Under the Light. The tendrils of my hair illuminate beneath the amber glow. Bathing. It must be this one. The last remaining streetlight to have withstood the test of time. The last yet to be replaced by the sickening blue-green of the future. I bathe. Calm. Breathing air of the present, but living in the past. The light flickers. I flicker back. Let's first look at what Yuri herself says about this poem. Actually, the poem isn't about a ghost at all. Remember that poets often express their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences in their work. They usually do more than tell a simple story or paint a picture. In this case, maybe the subject is only being symbolically compared to a ghost, lingering in her last remaining place of comfort, unable to let go of the past, and soon to be left with nothing. Let's point out some of the interesting things in this poem. Firstly, Yuri doesn't make a huge effort to hide that this poem is her as the main character. It's written in first person, my hair, I flicker. And when Yuri talks about the poem, she uses the pronoun she and her to describe the character. All of this alludes to the fact that Yuri is writing about herself. The poem also talks about the sickening blue-green hue of the future, which reminds me of a few lines from Monika's poems, where she uses colour imagery to represent computer technology. The idea of this poem is lingering under a lit street lamp, appreciating the older technology and ways of the past, the last street lamp that hasn't been replaced with artificial lights. As Yuri explains, the symbolism is someone wishing for their comfort space, wishing to go back to the past as things change. Now, how would this apply to Yuri? To a certain extent, Yuri probably does feel like an old soul. Her comfort is in books and tea. Wishing to cling to a simpler time is probably something that resonates with her. It could also be that as she's struggling with a lot of her mental issues, she's clinging to things like her favourite fantasy books that are a comfort to her, a reminder of a time before all this started. It's actually quite difficult for me to pinpoint exactly what in this poem relates to Yuri, but a lot of its themes certainly align with her character. Now, we will talk more about Ghost Under the Light, but for now let's move on to her second poem, The Raccoon. While the title alone sounds like a cheerful poem, it's far from it. Yuri mentions when she shares her first poem that she normally writes longer poems, but wanted to start off with something a bit more mild. And as we can see from this one, she's a lot more willing to share her longer poetry. It happened in the dead of night while I was slicing bread for a guilty snack. My attention was caught by the scuttering of a raccoon outside my window. That was, I believe, the first time I noticed my strange tendencies as an unordinary human. I gave the raccoon a piece of bread, my subconscious well aware of the consequences. Well aware that a raccoon that is fed will always come back for more. The enticing beauty of my cutting knife was the symptom, the bread, my hungry curiosity, the raccoon, an urge. The moon increments its phase and reflects that much more light off of my cutting knife, the very same light that glistens in the eyes of my raccoon friend. I slice the bread, fresh and soft. The raccoon becomes excited. Or perhaps I'm merely projecting my emotions onto the newly satisfied animal. The raccoon has taken to following me. You could say that we've gotten quite used to each other. The raccoon becomes hungry more and more frequently, so my bread is always handy. Every time I brandish my cutting knife, the raccoon shows me its excitement. A rush of blood. Classic Pavlovian conditioning. I slice the bread, and I feed myself again. For a poem about a raccoon, it has a very dark meaning. This poem is an extended metaphor about Yuri's self-harm struggles. The raccoon at her window is her urge to self-harm. The act of feeding it is her acting on it. The wordplay deliberately puts a lot of weight on the act of cutting the bread and feeding the raccoon, rather than the raccoon itself. The atmosphere of the moonlight, the dead of night, brandishing the cutting knife, all set up this very dark ambience. She uses a lot of heavy words, classic Pavlovian conditioning, moon increments, strange tendencies as an unordinary human. I could go deeper line by line into what each act is referring to, but I feel like with this one, once you kind of get the idea of what the raccoon, the bread, the knife represent, you can kind of figure it out. In the end, Yuri drops the metaphor, no longer using the raccoon, instead saying, I feed myself again. This poem is really good at what it does. It's quite disturbing in its feelings, and it conjures this very dark imagery. Once again, the next poem, you get one of two options, depending if you wrote all poems for Yuri or not. When you write all poems for Yuri, you get Ghost in the Light, Part 2. The tendrils of my hair illuminate beneath the amber glow. Bathing. In the distance, a blue-green light flickers. A lone figure crosses its path, a silhouette obstructing the eerie glow. My heart pounds. The silhouette grows. Closer, closer. I open my umbrella, casting a shadow to shield me from visibility. But I am too late. He steps into the streetlight. I gasp and drop my umbrella. The light flickers. My heart pounds. He raises his arm. Time stops. The only indication of movement is the amber light flickering against his outstretched arm. The flickering light is in rhythm with my pounding heart, teasing me for succumbing to this forbidden emotion. Have you ever heard of a ghost feeling warmth before? Giving up on understanding, I laugh. Understanding is overrated. I touch his hand, the flickering stops. Ghosts are blue-green. My heart is amber. This poem, in my mind, is what a romance with Yuri would have been like had the second act of the game not happened. Like with Natsuki's Because You poem, this poem has a romantic undertone towards the player. It continues on from Ghost Under the Light, where Yuri wants to linger in the past, is scared of the future, but now that you have come into the light, she also becomes blue-green and accepts the future. The poem starts off in a way that you think it's going to be the same as Ghost Under the Light, but then it suddenly shifts. Yuri's still under the street lamp, looking out at all the blue-green lights of the future. Under this light, she sees a silhouette of him. The description of gasping and her pounding heart contrasts the original Ghost Under the Light, which has a lot of feeling but gives no physical reactions or emotional responses from Yuri herself. Yuri tries to put up an umbrella to shield out the light of this person coming towards her, symbolizing the emotional shield she puts up when meeting you. It takes time for Yuri to open up to you, and this is Yuri being afraid to show her true self. Which, if that sounds familiar, it's because it's actually quite similar to what Natsuki feels. The amber light is flickering, representing an emotional distress as she tries to fight her feelings for you, but ultimately gives in. There's a sort of madness to Yuri giving in to her emotions, as she asks questions. Have you ever heard a ghost feeling warmth before? And laughs, giving up on all understanding. While there is that mad feeling to her giving in, it's nowhere near the extreme that we see from her in Act 2. This poem is an Act 1 poem, and lacks that obsession and horror imagery that you'll soon see from her in her Act 2 poetry. Finally, we get this resolution to her metaphor of the amber light and the blue-green light of the future. The flickering stops as she touches his hands, and she says, "Ghosts are blue-green, my heart is amber." Yuri in this poem is the ghost, and she has now become blue-green, where previously she fought against the blue-green. She's stepped into and accepted her future now, but has kept her heart amber. She's found the balance between keeping her past self and still moving on to the future, and new things out of her comfort zone. That being, you've helped her find that balance. Now let's have a look at the other poem you can get from Yuri, Beach. A marvel millions of years in the making, where the womb of Earth chaotically meets the surface. Under a clear blue sky, an expanse of bliss, but beneath grey rolling clouds, an endless enigma. The easiest world to get lost in is one where everything can be found. One can only build a sandcastle where the sand is wet, but where the sand is wet, the tide comes in. Will it gently lick at your foundations until you give in? Or will a sudden wave send you crashing down in the blink of an eye? Either way, the outcome is the same, yet we still build sandcastles. I stand where the foam wraps around my ankles, where my toes squish into the sand. The salty air is therapeutic, the breeze is gentle, yet powerful. I sink my toes into the ultimate boundary line, tempted by the foamy tendrils. Turn back and I abandon my peace to a road at the shore, drift forward, and I return to earth forevermore. This poem is Yuri's take on the beach theme, describing the beach as this powerful, mysterious force of nature. A lot of the purpose in this poem is to show the stark contrast between Yuri and Natsuki's poems. Yuri goes all out with the fancy words in this one. Enigma, tendrils, forevermore, a road, womb. It's dark and moody and very atmospheric. Unless someone is picking up on something I missed, this poem doesn't seem to have an underlying meaning relating to Yuri or the club. It's simply an example of Yuri's style of poetry. There's once again the visual of grey sort of lighting, similar to the dark moonlight in her Raccoon poem. There's a lot of spiritual references to the earth, giving the earth a womb, personifying it a little, and describes drowning as returning to the earth. The portrait of Markov, which is an example of Yuri's taste in books, features a lot of religious references. She raises the point in the poem, why do people build sandcastles when they know they're going to be destroyed? A metaphor for why do anything when life ends, which is another insight to Yuri's mindset. In the end, she describes standing on the edge of the shore, contemplating whether to turn back or to drift into the emotion, returning to earth evermore, meaning drowning. This gives an insight into her self-destructive nature. And now onto her Act 2 poems, aka where the madness begins, aka the moment you've all been waiting for, a deep dive into Yuri's poem, Wheel. It's very easy to look at this and go, oh, she's just crazy. But I actually found the most stuff to talk about from this poem. And honestly, it's probably my favorite Yuri poem. A rotating wheel, turning an axle, grinding, bolt head, linear gearbox, falling sky, 7 holy stakes, a docked ship, a portal to another world, a thin rope tied to a thick rope, a torn harness, parabolic gearbox, expanding universe, time controlled by slipping cogwheels, existence of God, swimming with open water in all directions, drowning, a prayer written in blood, a prayer written in time-devouring snakes with human eyes, a thread connecting all living human eyes, a kaleidoscope of holy stakes, exponential gearbox, a sky of exploding stars, a God disproving the existence of God, a wheel rotating in 6 dimensions, 40 gears in a ticking clock, a clock that ticks 1 second for every rotation of the planet, a clock that ticks 40 times every time it ticks a second time, a bolt head of holy stakes tied to the existence of a docked ship to another world, a kaleidoscope of blood written in clocks, a time-devouring prayer connecting a sky of 40 gears and open human eyes in all directions, breathing gearbox, breathing bolt head, breathing ship, breathing portal, breathing snakes, breathing God, breathing blood, breathing holy stakes, breathing human eyes, breathing time, breathing prayer, breathing sky, breathing wheel. Where to start with Wheel? Okay, what does it mean? A poem like this, I don't think can ever have one set meaning. I don't think there is a conclusive answer to, what does this poem mean? It's about as open interpretation as you could make something. But I'll give you my take on it. When Yuri talks about a wheel, she's referring to a cycle. The cycle of life and death, creation and the end of the universe. As we've seen from previous poems of her, like in Beach, Yuri likes to play with the existence and meaning of the universe, and even in the works she reads, there's a lot of religious messaging and gore, all of this being comprised into the one poem. It's this meaningless, endless, maddening cycle of life and death, creation and disaster. Meanwhile, Yuri keeps living through it, breathing. The structure to Wheel is a repeating rotation of several topics led by key words that ebb and flow and rotate around each other. Let me elaborate. I color-coded each of the main themes of this poem and highlighted when each was mentioned. All of them are repeated in the final segment of the poem about breathing. They each come back and forth. They flow into each other. For example, a prayer written in blood, a prayer written in time-devouring snakes with human eyes, a thread connecting all living human eyes. The prayer written in blood becomes a prayer written in time-devouring snakes with human eyes. Human eyes is then repeated in a thread connecting all living human eyes. While this writing in no way follows a typical poem structure, that is not to say there is no structure or no reasoning for the way that the words are placed. The idea of one topic leading into another gives this idea of a turning wheel, a cycle. Everything is repeating, turning over and over. The creation of the universe, I think, is one of the central themes to this poem. The opening line, turning an axle, grinding, linear gearbox. These are all technological terms showing the turning of a wheel. An axle is the part in the center of a set of gears that makes it turn. An axle is turned followed by grinding, a machine sound. Gives the idea of someone setting the cogs of the universe into motion. It sets the idea that maybe the world is man-made. After this, we get religious sentences. 7 holy stakes. Was the universe made by God? It gives this real push and pull between man and religion. We got a lot of references to the power of the universe itself, and also to nature, the repetition of blood and human eyes. Human eyes could also reference the part of the game where Yuri's animated eyes are replaced with more human-looking ones that move. Time is another central theme to this poem. Time itself is shown through numbers, but more importantly, clocks. Clocks are a round shape and also continue on forever in a cycle, much like the cycle of the world, the cycle of the wheel. Time is also explored through the reference to the snake eating its tail. Her line, time-devouring snake, reminds me of the symbol of the snake eating its tail, the Ouroboros, which is an ancient symbol that repeats the everlasting cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the sense of something constantly recreating itself. There's a certain meta aspect to Yuri writing about this topic, since as a video game character, despite dying, she's able to be born again simply by restarting the game. The game itself is a cycle. The girls try and have peace with you in the literature club, someone sees past the fourth wall and is driven insane, only to realise no matter what, the literature club is a place where no happiness can be found and deletes everything. Until someone re-downloads the game. We see in-game that even if there was no Monaco, whichever girl is put in the role of club president is able to see past the fourth wall, and thus the cycle begins again. Odds are at some point, Yuri may have learnt of the real world, which would also explain why she has so many references to the world being made and controlled by a machine. The poem finishes with the repetition of breathing. Breathing prayer, breathing sky, breathing wheel. While Yuri is struggling with her obsessive feelings for you, she describes the way her heart won't stop beating, and when she reveals her final poem, we can hear this eerie sound of her sharp breathing. The breathing was a part of her obsession, this rampant desire for you she can't explain. It begins to meld with the insanity of the universe. Anyway, those are some thoughts. I think Yuri's wheel poem is great. Anyway, Yuri's final poem I have nowhere near as much depth to go into with as it's this poem. Now, people have decoded this mess of letters, have deciphered the strange words, and the end of the poem is a continuation of that hidden message we get from Natsuki's Base 64 poem, but it's even more disturbing. I'm not going to read it here. If you want to read it, the DDLC wiki for Yuri's poems has it translated. The visual impact of this poem requires no analysis. It's smeared with her blood, it's been endowed with her scent, and her once perfect cursive has turned into this frantic scrawl. Basically, she's gone from descending into madness to embracing it. But yes, thank you friends so much for joining me when discussing this crazy topic and looking at these crazy poems that I love and think are great. Once again, thank you so much for all your support in these videos. It really means a lot to me. I really hope you enjoyed getting to look at Natsuki and Yuri's poems. If you have anything to contribute to the discussion, let me know in the comments below. Well, this is the end of this particular topic of discussing the poetry. This is a style of video that I would like to continue, so make sure you subscribe. I will also have the Genshin Impact Inazuma character design video coming up soon. No, I have not forgotten about that series. And there's always exciting things going on here and exciting DDLC things, so stick around. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your support. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.